All right, your skill sheet this week is multiplying polynomials. And I just want to do a quick review for you of multiplying polynomials to make sure you understand the exponent rules, to make sure you understand what you can do with it. One thing for sure, we are not solving for a variable. We are just multiplying things together, and we group like terms together and we join what we can. But if we can't, we just leave our pluses and minuses in between them. Quick reminder on variables. If you have two variables being multiplied together and they have, obviously they could have the same power, different powers, whatever it is, the rule is if the variable is written twice and they're being multiplied together, that you add the powers. So I would do the 2 plus 3 and I would get x to the fifth here. Okay, so just a quick reminder there. Sometimes we kind of get lazy on reminding ourselves why we're doing that, but the rule is if the bases being multiplied are the same, that you keep the base the same, don't change the base, and you add the powers. Okay, if variables are different, so if you have like an x and a times a y to the third, you can't join different variables. You would just write them beside each other and you can't do anything with those. Okay, so that's just kind of a reminder in general. So when I look at this problem, I have a very long polynomial. Okay, polynomial means more than one term. And I have a monomial, one term on the outside. When I see something like this, I think distribute. Okay, I'm going to distribute this term to everything, and each individual one will multiply. So my coefficients multiply, and I get 6. This has the invisible 1 there. So when I think about x to the first times x to the third, it becomes x to the fourth because I add those powers. Now I go to the next term. 3x times negative 4x squared, so 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And then my exponents, x to the first times x squared, again I add those powers, I get x to the third. When I take it to the next term, my coefficients first, 3 times 7 is positive 21, and x to the first times another x to the first, I add those powers, it becomes x squared. And 3x times negative 3 becomes negative 9x. Once I get to this stage, I stop and say, okay, are any of my terms alike? Well, I have an x to the fourth, an x to the third, an x squared, and an x. None of those are alike, which means I cannot add or subtract any of them together. It is typical that we write them in highest power to lowest power, which is the order they're in right now. So at this point, I'm done. I multiplied through. I can't join anything together. I'm done right there. Don't try to factor anything back out. Don't do anything else. Just stop. That's where we take that problem. All right, let's look at another example. This one is what we would call a binomial times a binomial. Bi meaning 2, and I have 2 terms here times 2 terms here. Okay, I'm going to show you this one a couple different ways because it depends, one, maybe how you've seen it before or which one you prefer more. Okay, so one method is called the FOIL method. Okay, and FOIL, the first F means multiply the first 2 terms together. So I multiply the 5x times the negative 4x. Okay, I'm going to show more work than you would ever need to show here, so you kind of see it. This is my F, and I get negative 20. Those invisible ones make it x squared. Okay, the O stands for the outsides. Okay, so the ones on the outside. So on the outside, I have a 5x and a positive 8y. And you can see what we're doing here is everything needs a term multiplying by everything else, and the FOIL keeps you organized. So this becomes a positive 40, and then x and y are different variables. We leave it xy. All right, then I stands for the insides. All right, so I go to the terms inside. So I have negative 3y times negative 4x. All right, so my I is the inside, so negative 3y times negative 4x. And 2 negatives make a positive. I get positive 12. Again, x and y do not join together, so I do that. Typically, we write them in alphabetical order so that they might be able to match up with something else later. And then the L stands for the last. Okay, so the last one on this side is negative 3y. I keep hitting that. And the last one over here is the 8y. All right, I didn't do a good job of putting this all in one line, but hopefully this makes sense. So that one, I'm going to just move it up here, is it becomes negative 24, and 2 y's, a y1 times a y1 becomes y squared. All right, so I have this line now after I've multiplied or I've FOILed, okay? And I look for like terms. Well, there's nothing to match with that x squared, so I'm just going to leave it negative 20x squared. But I notice the middle two terms, 40xy and 12xy, they both share the same variable sets of xy, so I can add those outside numbers and I get positive 52xy. Okay, I don't do anything with the variables, I just change and join the coefficients. And then my last term is negative 24y squared. It doesn't match anything, and I leave it here. Okay, now one thing I want to make sure I state here is in the last problem I said we usually make highest powers down to lowest powers. Okay, when there's mixed variables, we kind of just put them really whatever order there is. There's no right or wrong, and I'm just going to leave this just as is. Even though there's an x squared and y squared, I left the xy in the middle. It's fine. I wouldn't worry about doing anything else, okay? So that's the FOIL. Now, another way some have learned how to do this is called the box method, okay? So they make a box of two terms on one side, so 5x and negative 3y, always include the sign. And then on the other side, they get the negative 4x and the positive 8y. So we put each one of the binomials or each term on its own box. Then I multiply the two boxes together. So 5x and negative 4x makes negative 20x squared. 5x and 8y on that top line make a 40xy. Negative 4x and negative 3y on the bottom left makes a positive 12xy. And negative 3y times 8y makes a negative 24y squared. And once again, on my multiplications done, I look to see is there any matches. The only thing that matches are these two here, which means I leave the negative 20x squared. I can join my 12xy and my 40xy, and they make 52xy. And I have my negative 24y squared, okay? Once again, this matches what I did when I FOILed. So it's really a preference, your preference. What do you like, to FOIL or to do the box method, okay? The one advantage of the box method is it can work for more than just binomials. It could work for lots of terms, and it'll keep you organized, okay? All right, next example. This is one of those times when maybe the box method is nice again. If you choose to do the box method, I might do 2 on the bottom, and this time I might do 3 across the top, because I could do the 2x and the positive 6 and the 9x squared, negative 6x, negative 7, and then it would keep me organized. I'm going to finish this method since I started this one and go from here. That gives me an 18. My invisible 1 there plus the 2 makes x to the third. Going across, I get negative 12 with 6 and 2, and I get that invisible 1 there, so x squared. 2x times negative 7 is negative 14x. Across the bottom, 6 times 9x squared is 54x squared. 6 times negative 6 is negative 36x. And 6 times negative 7 is negative 42. All right, I'm looking for things that are in common. It's very often when you see these that your highest power comes first, and then we kind of can make, if you notice here, these lines of common terms, okay? So when I look there, I get an 18x cubed. When I join my x squareds, I get a positive 42x squared. When I join my x's, they're both negative, so they come together with a negative 50x. And then I have this straggler negative 42 at the end. That's one way to do it, is the box method, okay? So if you like the box method, it'll hold through for multiple times, okay? The other option is just because I can't FOIL because I don't have 2 terms times 2 terms. I just want to take this 2x times everything over here. So I'm going to start off at 2x times 9x squared is 18x cubed. 2x times negative 6x is negative 12x squared. And 2x, oops, bumped it again. Let me clean this up a bit. And here we are, 2x times negative 7 is negative 14x. So I've used the first term all the way through the second. So now I go to the second term, and I'm going to go to everything. So positive 6 times 9x squared is 54x squared. I'm going to do myself a favor and line it up underneath the other x squared. 6 times negative 6x gives me negative 36x, and I'll line it up under the x. 6 times negative 7 is negative 42. So I make sure every term in the first is multiplied by every term in the last, okay? Join my like terms. Nothing joins with 18x cubed. My negative 12x squared and 54x squared make 42x squared. That's positive. Negative 14x and negative 36, they're both negative, so it stays negative, and I get negative 50x. And my straggler, negative 42. Okay? So as you can see, my answers are the same. It's just a different method of being able to multiply. Key thing here, we're not solving for x, we're simply multiplying them out to make one long polynomial instead of some multiplication. All right, I have one more example for you. All right, the reason I'm showing you this example is it's very easy to get lazy and think that what we should do is cube this and cube that and we're done. That's not what this means at all. What is the definition of something being cubed? Well, the definition of something being cubed is to be times itself 3 times. So that means this is really x plus 12 times x plus 12 times x plus 12. That's what this means right here. There's a lot of multiplication to do. My hint to you is you can only do 2 at a time. So I'm going to do these 2 together first, and I know there's that third one sitting out there. So I'm just going to, because this is one of the methods I use the most, I'm going to FOIL it because I see 2 and 2. So first times first gives me x squared. Outsides, x times 12 gives me positive 12x. Insides is 12x times 12, positive 12 times x, which is positive 12x. And last 2 is 12 times 12, which is positive 144. The only things I can join is this, so I'm going to make this x squared plus 24x plus 144. That's the first 2. I'm going to now bring down this one I haven't used yet and go from there, okay? Maybe a good time for a box method again, or distribute. I'm going to just distribute this x all the way through to everything. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times 24x is positive 24x squared. X times 144 is positive 144x. Now I'm going to take my 12. 12 times x squared is 12x squared. I'm going to line it up underneath that x squared. 12 times 24x. I had to give myself big numbers, didn't I? Oh, I'm not thinking clear tonight. 4042. How about 288? There we go. Positive 288x. And 12 times, really, 12 times 144. 882441. 1267. Okay. I was not thinking well when I made that number up, was I? Okay. So everything was multiplied by the x, everything got multiplied by the 12. Now I'm joining like terms. I end up with x cubed plus 36x squared plus 12, 13, 2, 3, 4, 32x plus 2028. And provided I did not do a multiplication error, there's my 4 terms that I get after I took x plus 12 times itself 3 times. Okay? Remember, you're not solving for x. Just working to get those variables or everything multiplied through. Let me know if you have any questions.